What is the most toxic thing a parent can say to a child? So you're saying that I'm a bad parent in response to any form of help-seeking of constructive criticism was the worst for me. I have a list. 1. I wish I aborted you. 2. I wish I put you up for adoption. 3. List all the bad things about that and then immediately tell me I act just like him. 4. What did I do to deserve such a disrespectful child? Why couldn't I have a good one? I was not a bad kid at all, always home, cleaning the house, cooking for her, good grades, people pleaser, etc. She wonders why I never talked to her about big things happening in my life, why I put 5,000 miles in between us, and why I haven't returned home for almost 10 years. Edit. I am absolutely overwhelmed by all your lovely well wishes, and how many of you relate. In all that space I put between my mother and I and all the time I took, I created a lovely little life. I worked on myself so much and I am healing from the traumas I experienced. I so wish the same for everyone who relates. I am attempting to reply to every comment and wish you all something lovely and positive because you deserve it. If I miss yours, I still think you are lovely and wonderful and deserving of the best things life can offer. We're moving and you're not welcome. This is what my dad said to me while blackout drunk, after he took my sister's pizza that I made, ate it in front of me, and then threw the pizza at me after I asked him why the fuck he's like that and walked away. We were supposed to be moving to a new place the next couple weeks after this fight. This actually happened to my cousin. Her father committed suicide when she was 8. From then on, her mother became an alcoholic. After losing custody of her kids, she was eventually granted the ability to see her kids unsupervised, which did not pan out. The kids spent the weekend with her, but pretty soon she started drinking very heavily. My cousin told her she would have to tell another adult that she was drinking, and the mom started calling her all sorts of terrible names, so my cousin ran to the bathroom and locked the door behind her. I swear to God, the mom actually said to her own 15-year-old daughter, "When the police ask you why both your parents are dead, you'll know what to tell them. I'm going to kill myself just like your father did, and both will be your fault." My cousin is so sweet, funny, and pretty, and she's one of my favorite people in the planet. She is so kind, and she got dealt a shitty hand. It may not be as harsh as other things stated, but the dreaded "it's all in your head, you are just imagining it." As it turned out, I wasn't imagining it, and now I struggle to differentiate what's real and what's not, because I was led to believe I thought I was imagining things constantly. 1. You are useless. 2. No man would ever want to marry you. 3. I wish I never had you. 2 decades have gone by and it still pinches me today. I would never treat my children like that. Hell, when I have kids, they are not visiting their grandparents without supervision. This time I will stand up to them. I have nothing to lose this time. You're a useless disappointment. Do you think you'll ever amount to anything? You're pathetic. You're like a tiny little ant. I could destroy you so easily. I don't deserve you. I'm too good of a parent for you. You're an abuser. I gave up everything I liked for you. 95. Why not 100? Why can't you be like so-and-son's child? They do a bit subtler than the top comments here, but can eat a child's self-worth and guilt them well into adulthood and pass by standard alarms. If you're so depressed, why aren't you cutting? Cut deeper and kill yourself. She also forced me to sleep outside regularly. Dad let me in sometimes after midnight. She starts screaming and crying that she knows my dad and I are having an affair or he wouldn't have let me in. Oh, and ugly remarks about my appearance. How no one will ever love me or be friends with me, which I guess she's right about that one. Insulting your intelligence is a horrible thing for a parent to do, something where if a friend or a stranger had said it you might just laugh, shrug it off, but your own parent saying it. A good parent should stay away from anything that can ruin your self-esteem because they hold a lot more power than they tend to realize. Your uncle wouldn't mess with you if you didn't walk around the house like a slut. Not told to me, but a childhood friend. Her uncle was arrested a few years after that, but the thing that hurt her the worst is that her mother assumed it was her fault. After I got accepted to my dream college, my mom told me I'm too stupid to actually go and succeed. I graduated high school with honors. But I thought she was right. I dropped out before I even went. Still regret it. I had and have some speaking problems where I can't motivate my mouth opening enough to let the words out. One day in an argument with my father, he told me that I should learn to speak. That really hurts, especially from your father. Not the most toxic by far, but potentially the most common, making fun of your kid for making a change in their life for the better. I was always antisocial and the complete opposite of athletic. When I began to try and work out to gain some muscle, I got teased by my parents. All that did was discourage me and make me want to quit. This could go for anything. Is your kid antisocial? The WLOKW whole decided to LEVTHIRK and join us is fucking toxic and just encourages them to stay in their room. If your kid decides to make a positive change in their life, don't fucking discourage them so you can get an easy laugh. The classics from my work as a voluntary well-being counselor. Why do you always make me sad? Or now you've made me sad. I wanted a better, nicer child. You don't really want this. I know you. You want. Insert whatever parent wants. I'm so disappointed now. Plus combined with silent treatment and or crying. In my experience, divorced parents that say stuff like, "Don't talk about that to your other parent," tell your other parent, "This your other parent is trying to manipulate you. You see what other parent did?" I'm not saying you should hate them, but isn't it fucked up that they did that? It really screws with the kid's head. If you're ever going through a divorce and have children, please find a way to sort your shit with your former spouse without involving your children more than necessary. You're the reason behind every problem in this family, said to me word for word by my mother because I had a migraine and requested that they help keep my sisters as quiet as possible because I was hurting. I even asked to just be let out of the car so I could bus home, but they wouldn't let me do that either. They wouldn't help me with problems and they wouldn't let me help myself. How TF am I the reason behind every problem? You think I fucking want migraines? No, I fucking don't. It hurts so bad that it's increased my pain tolerance to the point that I have to have oozing pus sacs before I even notice an infection. I didn't ask for that amount of pain. If I had a choice I wouldn't hurt, but sure, I caused every problem in the family by having a chronic illness. When I was 15, used to live with my dad. Just the two of us in a room, just one room, 10 feet x 10 feet square, community toilet. You get the gist. So one day I cooked some instant noodles, used spoon to eat, didn't have a fork, dropped the spoon while eating, so in a hurry I grab another one. An hour or two later Dad returns from work, sees two spoons in the corner near the tape and utensils, which were kept in a corner so that I can wash them when the water supply comes. He enters the room, sees those two spoons and says, "What did you need the second spoon for? To fuck your ass?" First time I have told this to anyone. I translated what he said that day but couldn't translate the derogatory and abusive tone he used. Thank you for reading. I am not asking you due to it, it is an order. Why did I give birth to you? I wish you were never born. You are ruining my life, or you ruined my life. How dare you disobey me? You are a disappointment, or any insult tbh, or comparing you to other kids, or to your siblings. It's your fault she died. My mom to me after my aunt passed away from a massive heart attack. After learning her son had raped me since I was 3. Thank you for the upvotes and comments. This was said to me age 7. The abuse continued till I was 13. Last year once severed contact with my whole family. It's been difficult but my mental health has improved immensely. I'm in a living supportive relationship and are expecting. I'm proud to know this child will not know the horrors of my family. Dad, you ruined the family. When I finally had the guts to tell someone that my uncle, his sister's husband, was sexually abusing me for several years. After telling them about my sexual abuse at the hands of a family member, it happened 20 years ago, get over it already. People deal with all sorts of shit. So what if he did things to you? If you didn't want it to happen, you should have told somebody. When I spoke to the police, if you report it, it'll rip this family apart and it'd most likely kill us. You can't do that. We will have to protect him. Prison and people who touch kids isn't a safe place. After the police spoke to them, he is our son too. We have to protect him. Abuser. As well as you. Victim. Bit dark but it's my reality. I remember my mom calling me a slut when I was 15. I was cut off financially at 18, still in high school. I'm the family disappointment for not going to college. I did online classes so I wouldn't have to pay rent. Apparently online classes weren't good enough so I still had to pay rent. My siblings still get everything paid for. 3 years ago I was going through money issues and couldn't afford groceries. So I didn't eat. My parents took my sister grocery shopping monthly as she was in college making something of herself. My friend's parents literally called her good for nothing throughout her childhood and put her through constant verbal abuse. She was a brilliant student in school and we were close friends. I didn't notice it at that time, but whenever she scored somewhat less marks on a test she would get really tensed up. And not in a normal way. It was straight up sweating and gasping for breath. Turns out it was her parents calling her good for nothing which caused this. We drifted apart after school ended as she became more and more introverted and I really regret it since I should have stood by her and helped her emotionally. She committed suicide last week. Most of the things people have contributed are insults or direct attacks, but I think probably the most toxic thing a parent can say to a child is any form of, "Nobody will ever love you as much as I do," or "I'm the only one who really loves you," because it's the psychological equivalent of a bear trap. Its purpose isn't just to hurt the kid, but to keep them from ever leaving. Its purpose is to convince the kid that there's no point in trying to escape abuse. My mother told me when I was 8, that nobody likes a fat girl. I wasn't even really overweight. That and many other things she said and did made me develop an eating disorder. At the age of 8, more than 30 years later, and a lot more mental abuse. I still struggle with the whole eating thing. One Friday when I was somewhere in the 8-10-year-old range we were going shopping. We were walking towards the mall behind a group of young guys in their late teens, early 20s. They were laughing and joking, seemingly having the time of their life. It looked like a lot of fun. I pointed at them and told my mom that it reminded me of the song my dad used to play, "The Boys Are Back in Town," an old Thin Lizzy song. My mom looked straight ahead and bluntly answered, "You will never experience that." It wasn't exactly the kind of answer I had hoped to get. All I could get out of my mouth was ... what? "You won't," was her final saying on the matter. Way to ruin a Friday evening. 6 years ago I told my parents I was trans, that I was actually their daughter. That weekend, I was ordered to come home as their son so mom could yell at me and insist that I couldn't possibly be what I said I was. I haven't talked about it since. She's since claimed she's ready to grow with me and accept me, and that her earlier comments came from ignorance, but I'm reluctant to trust her. I feel like she might try to put conditions on that support, and keep me from reaching my full potential. I'm a cashier and it was about 6 months into my job at my grocery store when one of the regulars I thought I liked came through my line. He was early 30s and for the first time had his young son with him, maybe 6-7. I was ringing his order and we were chatting when his son stepped behind him into the empty check stand and was inspecting the scanner. He turned around and exclaims, "What are you doing, stupid? Don't look into that laser. Why are you being stupid?" Lost all respect for the man. I've never called the child stupid and never will. My girlfriend in high school was an LDR. I lived in Michigan, and she lived in Virginia. We met at church camp. We made ourselves officially boyfriend, girlfriend, and I hung up the phone and informed my mom, who softly scoffed her and says, "Isn't there anyone around here you could date?" When I was 17 and had drawn a picture with several small jokes on it to give to someone. You know, no one thinks you're funny. It's all in your head. No shit, Dad. It's called a mental illness. Maybe if you didn't gaslight me and actually took me to the doctor like you were supposed to half a year ago, I wouldn't have tried to become new paint for a choo-choo train. But hey, what do I know? You dropped out of high school and I almost graduated with a perfect GPA if it wasn't for that bullshit. But, yeah, you know more about mental health than me, definitely. My mom has 4 kids, and once when I was about 15 she unprovokedly, I know it's not a word, but it works, told me she never wanted kids and the only reason she had us was because my dad wanted kids. My little sister was a mistake and my older ones are twins, so that's how she had 4. None of us talked to her, and she makes no effort to talk with her kids. It recently was my 30th birthday and she texted me happy birthday. Long story short, the most toxic thing a parent can do is stop being a parent. My house, my rules. Try sitting down with your kid and explain to them why they can't do something. Don't make them feel disenfranchised just to enforce your authority. It will only make them want to run out as soon as they can, and if you're ever in a situation where you might need to leave with them, it'll come back and bite you in the ass. When the child gives their best effort and a parent gets mad and says there's no way, you're so stupid, you don't know how to do this, so you're obviously being lazy, and punishes the child for being lazy instead of teaching them how to do it right. My mom and I had a massive argument about LGBT people. I said it's natural and not a thing that should be debated. She said it's not natural and it goes against God's will. I asked what would you do if I was gay, and she said she'd kick me out and I'd be dead to her. I'm bi. It broke my soul that my own mother could and would do that. I'm only ever coming out when I eventually move out, which is probably not gonna be for a long time. No tertiary education, low-paying job, no marketable skills. But when I do, I'm gonna send her a picture of me kissing a girl while flipping off the camera. There is a lot of colorism in our culture, and a relative commented how dark I looked her, and I was taking swimming lessons at that time. So my mom slapped me hard in front of her and stopped taking me to swimming class. Later she gifted me a cream called Fair and Lovely and told me the doctor asked me to apply it. When I was a wee child playing Star Wars Pod Racers on the Nintendo 64, I finally got second place in one of the races I had been losing on for weeks. I was so pumped about it. I ran to tell my mother and she said, "Wow, you know, second place is the first loser." My dreams were crushed. So this may not be as bad as some of the others in here, but as early as 10 years old my dad would tell me, "You know, I really thought you were going to be the one to make me proud. I'm a middle child, along with the person you are when you're 12 is basically who you're going to be forever." Add those together and you get the 24-year-old who is convinced it is physically impossible for them to ever be good enough. Why do you have to be so weird, listening to your weird music and shit like that? My favorite music band I was listening to that time period was indie pop. I really enjoyed their music. After I got that comment, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be going outside of mainstream for my general interests. Like it was wrong to be enjoying something different. Really messed me up for a while because I would shun other people for having non-mainstream interests and think they were weird.